The day my family took everything from me started like any other Sunday. I sat at the old dining table, the one my father built with his own hands. My coffee had gone cold, but I didn't touch it. Everyone was there. My Aunt Patricia. My Uncle Howard. My cousins Nathan and Olivia. Even my older brother Kyle sat across from me, arms folded, eyes hard. My mother cleared her throat and said my name slowly, like she was warning me. "We've decided," she said, "that the house, the land, and the savings will be handled by the family." I already knew what that meant. "You won't be involved anymore," Uncle Howard added. "It's for the best." No one asked how I felt. No one asked if I agreed. Papers were placed in front of me, already signed by everyone else. Kyle slid a pen toward me. "If you fight this," he said, "you'll lose everything anyway." I looked at the papers. Years of work. My father's land. My small business. All gone with ink. So I smiled. That smile confused them. My mother frowned. Aunt Patricia leaned closer. "You're okay with this?" she asked. I nodded and signed. They thought I had given up. They didn't know I had just begun. If this story resonated with you, I'd be grateful if you'd subscribe to this channel for more true stories like this one. Leave a comment below, telling me what you would have done in my situation. I read every single one. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Your share might save someone's life. Thank you for staying with me until the very end. I know this wasn't an easy story to hear, and I want to be honest with you, some of the stories that follow contain fictionalized elements created for educational purposes. If that's not something you're comfortable with, feel free to explore other content that suits you better. But if you're willing to learn from real experiences, even painful ones, I'll be here sharing what I've learned. God bless you. And remember, protecting what is yours is never an option. After I signed the papers, the room felt lighter. Not for me, but for them. My family relaxed like a storm had passed. Uncle Howard laughed. Nathan and Olivia checked their phones. Kyle leaned back in his chair like a king who had won a war. "You're doing the right thing," my mother said softly. "Family peace matters." I wanted to ask her when peace became stealing from your own child, but I stayed quiet. I gathered my coat and stood up. No one tried to stop me. As I walked to the door, Kyle called out, "Don't worry. We'll take good care of everything." I smiled again and waved. Outside, the air felt sharp and cold. I walked down the long dirt road that led away from the house. Each step hurt, but not the way they thought. They believed I was weak. They believed I was broken. They believed I had nothing left. What they didn't know was this: I had planned for this moment for over a year. My father taught me something before he died. He said, "When people think you have lost, they stop watching you." And my family had just stopped watching. I kept walking and didn't look back. I moved into a small rented room that same week. One bed. One table. One chair. Nothing more. Kyle told everyone I was starting over. Aunt Patricia told neighbors I had failed in life. I heard the whispers, but I didn't respond. Every morning, I woke up early. I wrote in a small notebook. Dates. Names. Conversations. Everything my family did after taking control. They sold part of the land fast. Too fast. They pulled money from accounts my father once managed. They signed deals they didn't understand. I watched quietly from a distance. At night, I remembered my father sitting beside me years ago. He had trusted me with things he never told anyone else. He had shown me documents, old deeds, and records hidden in places no one would think to look. "You may need this one day," he said. I didn't understand then. I understood now. The papers I signed gave them control, yes. But they did not give them the truth. And the truth was still mine. I had kept copies of everything. Documents they didn't know existed. Evidence of what my father really wanted. 2 months after I left, Kyle called me. His voice sounded tired and stressed. "You should come by," he said. "We need to talk." I agreed without hesitation. When I returned to the house, it already felt different. The garden was overgrown. The walls needed paint. My father's care was gone. Inside, my family sat in the living room. Papers were spread across the table again, but this time they looked worried. "There's a problem," Uncle Howard said. I waited and said nothing. "The land sale is being questioned," Aunt Patricia added. "There's an issue with ownership." I nodded slowly, like I was hearing this for the first time. Kyle stared at me hard. "You wouldn't know anything about this, would you?" I shook my head. "You took everything. Remember." Silence filled the room. What they didn't realize was that the land was never fully theirs to sell. My father had split ownership years ago under a quiet agreement. An agreement only two people knew about. Him and me. The wheels were turning. Justice was coming. They tried to fix things fast. Too fast. Lawyers came and went. Calls were made late at night. Kyle stopped sleeping well. My mother started crying more often. I stayed calm and watched. One evening, my mother visited me at my small rented room. She looked older, smaller than before. "Why didn't you fight us?" she asked suddenly. I met her eyes. "Would you have listened?" She had no answer for that. She left quietly, looking defeated. The next week, the bank froze several accounts linked to the family. An audit began. Old records were requested. Records my father had carefully kept. Records that showed who really built the business. Who really owned what. And who had no right to take it. My father had been smart. He knew family could turn. He knew greed could spread like fire. So he protected what mattered. He protected the truth. And he made sure I knew where to find it when the time came. That time was now. Everything was falling into place exactly as it should. The family met again, but this time without smiles or laughter. Uncle Howard's voice shook when he spoke. "We need your help." I leaned back in my chair and crossed my arms. "You said I was no longer involved," I replied calmly. Kyle slammed his hand on the table hard. "Stop pretending. You planned this." I didn't deny it. There was no reason to lie. "I planned to protect what Dad trusted me with," I said. "You planned to take everything." My mother cried openly now. Tears ran down her face. "What do you want?" she asked. I stood up slowly. "The truth." Nathan spoke for the first time. "What truth?" "The truth about who Dad left things to. The truth about why he kept certain records. The truth about what you all did." Aunt Patricia looked pale and scared. "We did what was best for the family." "No," I said firmly. "You did what was best for yourselves." The room went silent again. "And now," I continued, "everyone will know." Their faces showed fear. Real fear. They were beginning to understand. The investigation took weeks. Every day brought new tension and worry. Nathan and Olivia stopped visiting the house. Aunt Patricia avoided neighbors completely. Kyle stopped answering calls from friends. Then the notice arrived. A formal hearing. All parties required to attend. My family sat on one side of the room. I sat alone on the other. Documents were read aloud. Dates were confirmed. Signatures were examined closely. My father's hidden work spoke for him. The lawyer explained how the business had been built. How the land had been purchased. How my father had structured everything carefully. And how the family had ignored all of it. The judge looked up and asked, "Why was this information not shared?" No one answered. Because they were too busy taking what wasn't theirs. My mother looked down at her hands. Kyle stared at the wall. Uncle Howard wiped his forehead nervously. The truth was heavy. It pressed down on them like weight they couldn't carry. And I sat there, quiet and calm, watching it all unfold. This was justice. When the ruling came, it felt unreal even though I expected it. The sale of the land was cancelled immediately. The accounts were returned to their rightful structure. Control was reassigned. To me. Gasps filled the room. Kyle stood up quickly. "This isn't fair." The judge looked at him calmly. "Neither was what you did." Uncle Howard tried to speak, but the judge raised a hand to stop him. "This case is closed," she said firmly. I walked out without saying a word to anyone. Outside, The sun was bright. I took a deep breath. The air tasted different now. Cleaner. For months, I had carried the weight of what they did. I had smiled through the pain. I had waited through the long nights. Now, it was over. Not because I wanted revenge, but because justice had to happen. My father taught me that truth always wins. It just takes time. And patience. I had both. The victory felt quiet but complete. Everything my father built was safe again. The house was quiet when I returned alone that evening. I opened the windows. Let the fresh air in. I didn't rush to move back. I didn't celebrate loudly. Instead, I waited. Because consequences don't always end with courtrooms. My family had to face what they did. Not just legally, but personally. Kyle called twice. I didn't answer. Aunt Patricia sent a letter. I didn't read it. Uncle Howard tried to visit. I wasn't home. I needed space. I needed time to heal from what they had done. The house felt different now. It wasn't just wood and walls anymore. It was a symbol of trust broken, of greed revealed, of family torn apart. I walked through the rooms slowly. Each one held memories of better times. My father's study, the kitchen where we ate together, the porch where we talked about life. All of it felt sacred now, because I had fought to keep it. Not for money, not for power, but for him, for his memory and his legacy. My family began to fall apart quickly after the ruling. Arguments replaced unity. Blame replaced love and support. They had bonded over taking from me. Now there was nothing holding them together. Kyle moved out. He rented an apartment across town. Alone and isolated. Uncle Howard stopped visiting. His relationship with my mother grew cold and distant. Aunt Patricia sold what little she had left. She moved to another state within months. Nathan and Olivia barely spoke to anyone anymore. I watched from a distance. Not with joy. Not with satisfaction. But with sadness. Because this was my family. These were people I once loved deeply. But they had chosen greed. They had chosen lies over truth. And choices have consequences. Always. My mother stayed in a small house near the old property. She called sometimes, but I rarely answered. I wasn't ready yet. The hurt was still fresh. The betrayal still stung. Forgiveness would come eventually. Maybe. But not yet. I needed more time to heal and process everything that happened. Months later, my mother called again. This time felt different. "I'm sorry," she said. Her voice cracked with emotion. She sounded broken and defeated. "I was wrong," she continued. "We were all wrong. I listened without speaking at first. Your father trusted you for a reason," she said. "And we ignored that. We ignored him." Silence hung between us on the phone line. "Can you forgive me?" she asked quietly. I took a deep breath. "I don't know. I understand," she whispered. We talked for a few more minutes. Not about the past. Not about the pain we'd caused each other. Just small things. How she was doing. How I was doing. It wasn't much. But it was something. A small start. I believed her apology. I could hear the regret in her voice. But apologies don't erase actions. They don't undo hurt or heal wounds instantly. Some lessons come too late. But they still matter. She needed to learn. They all did. And maybe, one day, we could heal together. But that day wasn't today. I rebuilt slowly and carefully. Not just the business. Not just the land and property. I rebuilt myself from the inside out. I hired fair people. People who valued honesty. People who worked hard and cared. I paid debts honestly. I honored my father's name in everything I did. The business grew again. Not because I pushed it aggressively, but because I did things right. Customers returned. Trust was earned back gradually. The land became productive again. Crops grew tall. Animals grazed peacefully. Everything my father had built was alive once more. I worked long days. Woke up early every morning. Went to bed tired but satisfied. But it was good work. Honest work. The kind my father would be proud of. At night, I sat on the porch. The same porch where he used to sit and think. I thought about him often. His wisdom. His patience. His unconditional love. He had prepared me for this. Without knowing exactly when it would happen, he had prepared me. And I was grateful for everything he taught me. People began to notice the changes. The same neighbors who once whispered now nodded with respect. At the store, people greeted me warmly. At church, they shook my hand firmly. Truth has a way of traveling. It spreads faster than lies. They had heard what happened. They knew the whole story now. Some apologized for believing the lies my family spread. Others just showed support quietly. I accepted it all with grace and humility. Because I didn't do this for recognition. I did it for what was right. But it felt good to be seen. To be respected and valued. One elderly neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, stopped me one day. "Your father would be proud," she said with kind eyes. Those words meant more than anything. Because that was all I wanted. To make him proud. To honor his memory properly. To protect what he built with his own hands. And I had done that. The community saw it. They understood what happened. And slowly, I felt less alone in the world. Kyle tried to return one afternoon. He showed up at the house. No call. No warning beforehand. "Can we talk?" he asked nervously. I looked at him carefully. He seemed smaller somehow. Tired and worn down. "About what?" I asked. "About everything," he said. "About what I did to you." I crossed my arms. "You want forgiveness before accountability." He frowned, confused. "What does that mean?" "It means you want me to say it's okay before you've actually changed your behavior." "I have changed," he insisted. I shook my head slowly. "You've regretted. That's different from real change." He looked confused and frustrated. "Regret is feeling bad," I explained. "Change is being different. Show me you're different, then we'll talk." He started to argue, but I held up a hand to stop him. "I'm not closing the door forever," I said. "But I'm not opening it today either." He nodded slowly and left without another word. I watched him walk away down the path. Part of me wanted to call him back. But I didn't. Because I had learned something important through this. Boundaries matter. They protect us. People asked why I didn't fight harder at the start. I told them simply, because I didn't need to. They didn't always understand what I meant. They thought fighting meant yelling, arguing loudly, forcing your way. But I knew better from experience. Real fighting is strategic. It's patient and intelligent. It's smart and calculated. I fought by waiting, by watching carefully, by preparing thoroughly. I fought with the truth as my weapon. And truth is the strongest weapon that exists. My father taught me that. He showed me how it works. Don't react emotionally. Respond thoughtfully. Don't rush ahead. Wait for the right moment. Don't force anything. Allow truth to emerge naturally. These lessons guided me through the darkest time. And they led me to victory in the end. Not the loud kind. Not the obvious kind everyone sees. But the kind that lasts forever. The kind that changes everything fundamentally. People respected this approach. Once they understood, they respected it deeply. And I respected myself. For staying strong. For staying wise. For choosing the harder path. Sometimes, the best move is letting others reveal who they are. My family revealed themselves clearly. Not through my words, but through their own actions. I didn't have to convince anyone of anything. I didn't have to argue or fight. I just had to step back and let truth emerge naturally. This is a powerful lesson for life. In business, in relationships, in everything we do. People show you who they are. You just have to watch carefully. Don't force them to be different. Don't ignore what you clearly see. Just watch. And believe what they show you. My family showed me greed. I believed them completely. They showed me betrayal. I believed them without question. And I acted accordingly to protect myself. Not with revenge, but with protection and wisdom. I protected what mattered most. I honored what was right and true. And I let them face the natural consequences. This wasn't cruel or mean. It was necessary for justice. Sometimes love means letting people fail. Letting them learn hard lessons. I loved them enough to let them face the truth. Even when it hurt everyone involved. They took everything from me that day. And lost far more in the end. They took land, money, control of the business. But they lost trust, respect, inner peace. They lost family bonds. They lost themselves completely. I lost things too. But I gained much more. I gained wisdom, strength, strong character. I gained respect, peace, truth and justice. In the end, what they took was temporary and meaningless. What they lost was forever. And what I gained would last a lifetime and beyond. This is the math of greed. You take everything and end up with nothing real. But the math of wisdom is different and better. You give, and you receive abundantly. You wait, and you win eventually. You honor truth, and truth honors you back. My father understood this deeply. He lived it every day. And he taught it to me patiently. Now I live it. And maybe one day, I'll teach it to someone else who needs it. The cycle continues. Not of greed and betrayal, but of wisdom and truth. And that changes everything in the world. I lost my family once. I gained my life forever. And that changed the narrative completely. The story people expected was simple and predictable. Family betrays. Person suffers. The end. But that wasn't my story at all. My story was different and powerful. Family betrays. Person plans carefully. Truth wins. Life begins fresh. A better story. A truer story worth telling. I sat on the porch one last time before bed. The stars were bright in the clear sky. Everything was quiet. Peaceful. Perfect. I thought about my father. About his wisdom. About his deep love for me. I did it, Dad, I whispered to the night. I protected what you built. The wind blew gently through the trees. Like an answer from him. I smiled and went inside feeling complete. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. New opportunities. New lessons to learn. But tonight, I was at peace with everything. Because I had learned the most important lesson of all. When people take from you, don't fight with anger. Fight with wisdom and patience. When they expect you to break, show them strength. When they think they've won, show them patience. And when the truth finally comes, let it speak for itself. That's how you change the narrative. That's how you truly win. And that's how you honor those who believed in you. If this story resonated with you, I'd be grateful if you'd subscribe to this channel for more true stories like this one. Leave a comment below, telling me what you would have done in my situation. I read every single one. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Your share might save someone's life. Thank you for staying with me until the very end. I know this wasn't an easy story to hear, and I want to be honest with you, some of the stories that follow contain fictionalized elements created for educational purposes. If that's not something you're comfortable with, feel free to explore other content that suits you better. But if you're willing to learn from real experiences, even painful ones, I'll be here sharing what I've learned. God bless you. And remember, protecting what is yours is never an option.